when you're in your center, your perceptions open up, and there's three kinds. There's your intuitive, kinesthetic, and empathetic perception. So kinesthetic, your body feel. Empathetic, your ability to feel people, places, things, what's happening. And intuitive, you just know. When you're in your center, it's a knowing without knowing. There's a peace. There's a presence. There's a playfulness. There's an effortlessness. There's a being here nowness. You're a nowist. You're right here, right now. And you're still, but you're ready. You're relaxed, but you're rooted. And that's the thing, that anything and everything is possible. And one of the things is that gets us there, there's a HOD, I like to call it. It's humility, openness, and detachment.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I am your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert. And on today's podcast, we bring you to center. Everything that you want in life is intention to the frequency of the person that you are or the person you want to become. And it all starts there. It all starts with being. Because when we could be that and become inspired in that space, we'll start to take actions that are in line with that. Then we're going to get gifts of money, gifts of a new relationship, gifts of our dreams coming to fruition. Then we're also gifted with lessons, things that we do that are bringing us towards the path that we learn from so that we could become stronger and continue to work towards our dreams. So everything in life is a gift. So I want you to recognize that. But sometimes we don't recognize that because we are in our heads, because we have a 2 billion-year-old brain that wires us for fear, wires us for stress, wires us to have these negative thoughts in our brain that takes us away from who we are, takes us away from center. And on today's podcast, Sifu Singh is actually going to give us techniques, philosophies on why it's important to be in center and how we actually achieve that. Because from that place and from that place only, we're really living life. We could really be present with the people that we're with, be really intentional with the actions that we take. Otherwise, we're going off a program of the default mode network, which is an old program that's wired in fear, that's wired in survival mode. So this is a great podcast to dive into how to be in center, because if you find your center, you could achieve anything you want here in 2025. Now, this podcast episode was actually an excerpt from my Thrive State Summit, where I invited thought leaders like Vishen Lakhiani, Sifu Singh, Dave Asprey, Bruce Lipton to come in. And if you want full access to that, as well as all my digital courses, go to mythrivestate.com/pro and use the code ThriveState50 to receive 50% off all my digital products. I've got more free stuff for you. If you're new to the podcast and you're listening to this for the first time, you want some things just to start off your performance and longevity journey, go to thrivestatestarter.com. It has a lot of free stuff and a good resource for you to keep journaling, keep track of your progress this year is my Thrive State Toolkit. You could receive that for free at mythrivestate.com/toolkit. Now, remember how to master your center. Your center is going to be what you need to draw from to get to the next best level of you. And one of the things I'm super excited to release this year is how to create a digital version of you. With the snap of a smartphone, it can scan your body and reverse engineer your biology to give you precise advice on how to get into your Thrive state. That's right, just a snap of a smartphone. And you could try it out for free by going to shay.group/Dr. Kien Vuu. Spelled out, that is SHAE.group, GROUP/DR-KIEN-VU. All this free stuff, I just want you to be the very best version of yourself. I want 2025 to be a breakout year for you. And I know that if you could stay in your thrive state and take actions from that place, you're going to be gifted with the best version of you, feeling like the best version of you, knowing that the best version of you is just inside, waiting to erupt, waiting to bring more love into your relationships, more finances into your business. I am super excited for you. Please enjoy this episode, and remember always, you are your best medicine.
Hello and welcome back to another session of the Thrive State Summit. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be captivated by our next speaker, a true luminary in the world of personal transformation. Harinder Singh, also known as Sifu Singh, is not only a 23rd generation Tai Chi master, but also a defensive tactics instructor, thought leader, speaker, author, and high performance coach. With a profound understanding of how to thrive in chaos, he guides elite audiences and organizations entering the flow state on command. I can't wait to dive in. Sifu Singh's expertise extends far and wide, having trained over 150 elite military and law enforcement agencies, Silicon Valley's business leaders, and professional athletes in the art of thriving amidst chaos, uncertainty, and overwhelm. He's the founder of Master Your Center, a peak performance method designed to build incredible amounts of energy, relax under pressure, and flow in our tumultuous world. The ability to slow down time, expand your awareness, and let go of tension on command is the most important attribute necessary for peak performance and optimal health. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sifu Singh. How's it going, brother?
How you doing, man? Good to see you. How you been?
I've been really good. I really treasure our time together because when we met through our good friend, Eric, the trainer, who is an inspiration for the summit around mental health. And I was just enamored by your philosophy, your teaching to really be able to bring down the chaos in our life. And so I want to ask you this. I know for so many people watching here, these busy professional athletes, CEOs, they go through a lot of stress. There's a lot of chaos in our lives. Now, in your mind, where does that come from? Is that living within ourselves, or why is there such a rise in mental health issues and stress these days?
That's a wonderful question. It comes down to we're living today in today's modern world is living in a reactively tense society. That's what's ending up happening. And what we're suffering from is an energy crisis and a time crisis, right? There never seems to be enough time and energy to be able to perform at work or be present at home. So we're in this constant battle of tension, and really it's reactive tension. Reactive tension is enemy number one. It's the biggest thing that's there in the medical profession, stress and tension, and later leading up to heart disease and all the different issues people are facing these days with anxiety, with depression. When you come back down to it, it comes down to reactivity. It comes down to why we react to things, because most people in our society, they're reactive. Something happens, so an event happens, and then they react. That's the thing. The event happens, react, and then the outcome happens, and then they suffer the consequences of the outcome. Right? So what we have to do is we have to understand that if we're living in a reactively tense society, we're always going to be not having enough energy and not having enough time, because that energy is wasted in reaction. And now we lose time reacting. So we haven't made optimal choices. So that's another thing that ends up happening. And then, of course, we're going to be overwhelmed, exhausted, and distracted. And those feelings of overwhelm, exhaustion, and distraction, they become the norm in today's society. And they're the things that rob us of peace, of presence, and playfulness. The method that we need is a principles, a process-oriented, practical method that transforms tension into flow. And that's what my work has been about. My work with my teachers that have taught me this, but my work with military, government agencies, executives, even myself. When I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm dealing with interacting and connecting to my son, to my wife, to the ocean, the environment around me. Everything comes down to which version of me is there. Is it the reactively tense version, or is it the person that's still, that's calm, that's connected? Because when I am in my still point, and that's what I love to talk to you guys about, that is, if you can master your center, you can get to the still point of creation, And from there, we have access to our superpowers of our ability to create solutions to problems, our ability to connect to ourselves, to our loved ones, to situations, to our higher power, and our ability to be like water and flow, because relaxation is a choice under pressure. It's not the absence of pressure.
That's so beautiful. So many of our speakers have basically talked about primitive parts of our brain and nervous system called the default mode network. That as a child, you learn these things from the people around you. You learn the things that potentially lead us to stress. And then the more this thing is active, the more of these thoughts flow through our minds that is not truly who we are. So a lot of people are talking about how quieting down this default mode is something that is so important. It seems like what you're doing with the work that you do is also drop down that default mode to get you more into who you are as an essence, so that you can make choices from that place and not from a place of a reactionary, lizard-brained, primitive, unconscious place.
100%. See, the way it is, okay, let's say your true self, this is who you are, right? This is your true self. You come into this world. Now, guess what happens? Life hits us all.
Yeah.
It hits our finances. It hits our relationships. It hits our health. We get betrayed. We get rejected. We get abandoned. Now, these things happen. Life hits us, right? So one of the things we have to learn to roll with the punches. But because we don't know how to roll with the punches or deal with that, we build a wall around our true self to protect us. And that first wall we build is called your ego fear.
Yeah.
So that's your ego, it's your fear, because you're afraid of those things that have happened, betrayal, rejection, abandonment. You're afraid of that, so you build this wall. So now you've started to drift away from the center being of who you truly are at your essence.
Good.
Now, if you hang out long enough in this wall, you build another wall outside of that, and that's self-doubt and self-hatred. So if you doubt yourself, you hate yourself. That's that negative talk that we always have going on. We're constantly criticizing, constantly condemning, constantly beating ourselves up. That's not a place of love. That's where we're operating from. Now we've drifted away even further from the center, right? Now, guess what happens? Now we build a mask, another final fourth wall around that. That's a mask, and that's our acquired personality. That's who we think we are. And we make most of our choices from this acquired personality. But this acquired personality was necessary. It was necessary. We had to develop it. We had to put these walls up because we didn't have the tools to protect ourselves, to make ourselves feel safe. We built this whole structure, and now we've drifted so far away from our center, it's impossible to feel peace, presence, playfulness. It's impossible to create, to connect, to adapt. We're living now outside in these walls, and what these walls create is these blocks. You and I, we've talked a lot about flow. And it's one of the things I obsess about is the flow states, and how do we get into it? What causes it? What gets us out of it? So if you look at a flow state, all right, and a flow state has four things, four pillars. Number one is that there's no sense of self. So there's no more of that questioning, that yip-yapping going on in your mind, the negative self-talk. There is no talk at all. It's an empty observer. The second thing is time gets displaced. So what do I mean by time gets displaced? Now, in a life and death situation, boom, you have a matrix moment and time starts to slow down. In a creative moment, you ever had those moments where you're hanging out with some really good friends, you're in an amazing conversation, or you're sitting down to write a piece of work or create some music, and all of a sudden, 5 hours, 10 hours goes by, but it feels to you like 10 minutes. So time has been displaced. The next thing that ends up happening is it's absolutely effortless. And then from there, it's a rewarding experience. But the exact opposite of that is there's this saboteur, this voice in our head that tells us what we cannot do, and it's always yapping. So now time, you don't get to the center of time and space anymore. Now you're either in the past, worrying about something that's happened, or you're worrying about something in the future that's going to happen. So now you're not in the moment anymore. You're not in the still point of now. And now instead of it being an effortless experience, now you have to try so hard. You have to work so hard. And that's why people are always overwhelmed. And now finally, if you look at, instead of a rewarding experience, it's an exhausting experience. So when we're operating from the mind continuously going, living in the past or in the future and not being right here, right now, we're making life so much harder, and it's very difficult to have an effective interaction with people, places, and things, and our experience of life itself. So that's flow. And most of the time, with regards to flow, what are the three things people normally do to get into flow states, right? They go, number one, it's flow or die situation, life or death. Because in that life or death situation, what happens is those walls I explained, they're obliterated. And I felt that this is how I discovered it. There's no chance for the mask. The mask is gone. The doubt is gone. The fear is gone. And you get to meet your true self. That's why people love riding big waves. They love doing adventurous stuff because it breaks through those and they get to meet their true self. And another method people use is isolation. So now they isolate themselves. They go to a beach, go to a mountain, go to a retreat, isolation. Okay. And the third, which is getting very popular these days, is psychedelics. But all of these things are designs that people are using to get back to that center course of their true self, of who they are. But they're trying to break through their masks, through their self-doubts, through their fears, back to who they are. But flow or die situations are not sustainable. After you hit a 10-foot wave, what do you need? A 20-foot wave. Isolation is not always sustainable because we have to live in this world. All right. Can't just be running off all the time. There's nothing wrong with training in these things, but it's not a sustainable thing. And of course, psychedelics, microdosing starts into major dosing. It's not sustainable. The question becomes, how can we do this without anything outside of ourselves? How can we access it by ourselves on our own? And that's the process that will be sustainable because you're with you all the time.
So beautiful. Now, I know you bring your work and practice to the elite, the top of the top in these military and very high agencies. The everyday person who's going through a lot of stress might be wondering, do I have the discipline or what it might take for me to slowly take the steps to master this process of flow?
100%. We all need to flow. Here's the thing about flow. I'm going to break the myth. Ready for flow? Flow state is not something you get into. Okay. The flow state is always happening. We're just out of it. That's the thing. We're just out of it. It's not something to get into. What we have to see is what are the blocks in the chain? What are the kinks in the hose? And these blocks, there's 3 blocks that we have. There's security, control, and approval. So I like to say, are you a security cat? Are you a control freak? Or are you an approval junkie? Now, whether you're a military operator, you're closing $1 billion deal, you're hitting the game-winning shot, or you want to be present, connecting to your children, or you're driving your kids home from school or taking them to a practice, or you're connecting to your partner. If security, control, and approval are in the way, you're not even there. And you're missing out on opportunities of really living life. So if we break that down, control freak. Control freaks. And if you, people listening, raise your hand if you're a control freak. So a lot of us have that. But why? Something has happened to us in our past that we are still angry about. We still have some blame. We still have some resentment. And we are so afraid of it happening that we put control mechanisms into our present moment. So then if anything doesn't go according to plan, we freak out. It's because we're afraid of feeling the way we felt before. And now we're bringing that into the present and robbing us of the present. Security cat, you're afraid of the future. You're attached to the result. It hasn't happened yet. So your fear of failure, and this is ego and pride driven, is now robbing you of this current present moment. And approval junkie, that's everyone, right? And approval junkie, what is that? If you need anything outside of yourself to make you feel whole and total, anything, people's approvals, opinions, cars, houses, stock options, 3 letters in front of your name, whatever it may be, because you're doing it because you want people to think you're great. There's a hole inside of yourself, and that hole is not going to be filled by anybody else. And you're looking outside of yourself to do that. The true strength that you already have within. But if you look at security, control, and approval, they are the blocks, Dr. V, to flow. And it doesn't matter if you're a special operations agent or you're a house mom or you're in the ER room or you're a teacher. It doesn't matter. This is what's robbing us of this moment and our experience of life right here, right now, is these thoughts in our mind. And they're all because of the masks. Because when you create that mask, because you're afraid, And we haven't had the tools to deal with it. So it's not your fault. You're operating from security, control, and approval. And now what ends up happening? Your experience of life is what you think is happening, not what is actually happening. And there's a law of effective interaction. And if we take a look at it, our perceptive experience determines our actions. So that means what you're experiencing is going to determine the actions that you choose. So then the question becomes the perception. So perception then determines your experience, determines your actions. But the question is, who's perceiving? Are you perceiving from your true self, or are you perceiving from one of the walls, from fear, from doubt, from the mask that you created? Or are you perceiving from your true self? Now, if you're perceiving from one of those masks, security, control, approval, now that experience is what you think is happening, and the actions that you choose are going to be based on what you think is happening. So now the actions are no longer co-measurate to what is actually happening. So you're not going to get optimum interactions or optimum results. The opposite of that is if I can center myself first, boom. Then from there, I shift my perception. Now I experience what is actually happening because I'm an unbiased observer. Now my actions that I choose will be actually co-measurate to what's happening, and that's going to produce better results. And this is how I save precious life force energy and time and actually get to experience life for what it really is versus what I think it is.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast thus far. Now, I wanted to give you a really neat resource that I've been working on for the past year. Are you living with chronic stress, burnout, or the nagging symptoms of anxiety and depression? Do you find yourself battling fatigue or brain fog or feeling like you're not performing at your best? Well, what I've been working on all of this year is made especially for you. It is an online virtual event called the Thrive State Summit. You can register now for free at thrivestatesummit.com. But what it is this: you get to connect with and learn from 50 world-renowned thought leaders, experts, and some of your favorite celebrities. We've got people like Bruce Lipton, Vishen Lakhiani, Dave Asprey, Dr. Josh Axe, all united with a shared mission to tackle the mental health crisis that is impacting each and every one of us. Now, the Thrive State Summit isn't just another event. It is really my hope that it becomes a catalyst for change, particularly in this fast-paced world. And so what can you expect? You could expect to take home life-changing takeaways from all our experts, activation sessions to be able to bring you into states of calm and relaxation, really all the resources for you to become the best version of yourself. And finally, proceeds from the Thrive State Summit will go to 4 mental health nonprofits, including Rare Impact Fund, the Trevor Project, Good Days, Genius Recoveries. So please, if you invest in yourself, and please share this resource with your friends and family members. It's something I poured my entire heart into this past year, and I know it's going to help so many people. So register now at thrivestatesummit.com.
For me, I often say that if I can optimize somebody physically, make sure they're nutritionally well adept, they're sleeping well, all these things, and if I optimize them in that sense, that any anxiety, depression, overwhelm, anger, resentment, fear, these negative emotional states that we're in occur because of that perception, occur because you're not in your essence, and that some program has you filtering out what's happening in the outside world as those things. I don't know if you agree with me on that point. Like I said, if I medically correct everything else that's going on, and I think for most people, they're pretty on par. But if you've got those emotions and something medically is not up, it's through your perception and the consciousness that you are in that's producing those negative emotional states. What would you say to that?
I agree with that. I think when you take a look at it, the body, the mind, and the breath, right? If we break it down, right? So look at the body. If the body is not optimized, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not getting enough hydration, you're not getting the correct nutrition. Now your body is not going to be in balance and harmony. So that's going to throw the whole system off. There's the body, but we say the body, breath, mind have to be in balance for us to access the still point, which allows us to access flow. And in life, right? But so we optimize the body. That's really important. And when you look at the energy of the body, you look at what you eat, the air you breathe, and how much you drink, how well do you sleep, Those are very important things, and other nutritional aspects that you can see, and imbalances that you want to correct. You want to bring it back into balance, because the definition of the Tao is achieving harmony through balance. So we want to restore balance. So now the body can be optimal, and that sets you up to be into a better place. The next thing, though, is that when we take a look at the mind, is the mind in the past or is the mind in the future? Where is it living? And for most people, if they do not address the traumas, the experiences, the reactive patterns that they've installed, that they've acquired from people, places, and things, from their parents, from their teachers, from their experiences, they still keep running that loop of that program. So many people you see that are really fit, they're really strong, they're really healthy, they've optimized their body all the way, but they can't stop the mind. The mind can't stop. They can't sit still. And they have to always be busy. They have to always be doing something, because stillness freaks people out. Because when you get still, you have to feel. And when you start to feel, all the things you didn't want to feel come up. And when they come up, they feel just as bad as they did when they happened. So you're just reliving it over and over again. So that's the other aspect. And then the next thing that ends up happening is that we are living in our heads. So we got to get out of our heads into the body and then down, drop into the ground. The force of gravity is always acting on us, and it's going in one direction. It's down. But tension, which way does it go? Tension rises because you get tensed up. Your mind speeds up. Your thoughts speed up. Your heart rate speeds up. Your respiration speeds up. Everything speeds up. So that's speeding up. We can go to the gym and get a great workout. You could do Tai Chi. You could do Qigong. You could do yoga. For that moment, you escape. What happens the other 24 hours, the other 23 hours of the day? What state are you in? So sometimes we have to address, are we just putting on Band-Aids? Or are we really doing the work to drill in, to understand who these masks are, where they came from, and take a good deep look inside? And free ourselves from ourselves. That's what my teacher said to me. He said, we're going to take on this ridiculous task to free yourself from yourself. And I was like, oh man, come on, man. I just want to learn how to hurt people, because I was angry. I'm going to be honest. I was very angry. I went to learn Kung Fu martial arts because I wanted to be a very dangerous man. Why? Because I had been assaulted. I almost lost my life being jumped by a gang. I was the wrong place at the wrong time. Divine intervention, I survived. But I was extremely angry. And that motivated me for so many years. And that's the thing we have to ask is, it comes down to forgiveness. It comes down to accountability. It comes down to doing the work to understand. And that work is the most important thing. And everything else is just a Band-Aid. Otherwise, it's just a temporary escape. And that work means you have to take a look at self in the mirror and accept responsibility and accountability for your actions, and say that they were all by design so you could grow. Nobody's perfect, and you don't have to be. Because that's the other thing, right? We live in a world where you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Perfection, man, that's BS. Nobody can be perfect. Nothing in this world is perfect. If you're perfect, you don't learn. You learn through your losses. As we say, invest in loss. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. And it's an important thing. And I think it's an important thing to consider all aspects of it. And then your breath, are you aware of your breathing? Like right now, when we're sitting here and anybody's listening to this, have you been aware of the inhales and the exhales? Have you been aware of the changes between the inhales and the exhales? Are you aware of the force of gravity that's acting on you? If I hold this pen and I drop it, it drops down. So gravity is always pulling on me. Are you aware of your heartbeat? So boom, if I'm sitting here, I can feel my heartbeat. I can feel the force of gravity pulling down on me. I can feel being connected here with you. And can we cultivate and train this state so that we can live most of our life from here, and not out of reactivity, not out of a need to impress, right? I'm sitting here talking to you, Dr. V, and you've got such amazing people in this Thrive State Summit. And could you imagine if there's a voice in my head that says, oh man, you better not say something stupid. You better show up and say something smart. Come on, man. That robs me of this present moment, of this ability to connect. And if I'm actually here to serve and to give, if I'm taking people's approval, am I actually really giving? Can you actually really show up? And these are the wars in your mind that you have to fight, that even if we do optimize our physical health, which is a must, it's first step one, we still have to address the mental health.
What does that look like practically? I know you've trained so many different law enforcement agencies. I know you've got a course mastered your center. What does it look like practically? Is it understanding breathing, moving, and all these things combined together? What does it look like to master your center from a technical perspective?
Okay, to describe that, let's give you a formula. If you master your center of the body, the breath, and the mind, you access the still point. Okay, so the center of the body is if your body's in balance and harmony with the flow of gravity. That means you understand how to stack your bones, your posture, and where tension is in the body and release it. Then the center of the breath, that's being aware of the transition between the inhale and the exhale and the inhale. That gets you to quiescent stillness. Then there's the center of the mind, that's being here right now. That gives you the access to the center of time and space. So if I can align, but I need to align all three of them. So if I align the body, the breath, and the mind, I enter the still point, this elusive still point that everybody talks about. But that's how you get to it. And the still point or stillness, there's three ways. There's stillness in stillness. Now there's stillness in movement. And then there's stillness in movement in chaos. So I need a method to find my center, move from my center, keep my center under pressure, and recover my center when I get knocked off. And that's the method that we have to build on, so that when I'm doing that, I'm ensuring that I'm coming from my center, from the still point. And that allows me the ability to create, to connect, and adapt. It allows me to come to the center of who I truly am, so that I can operate from there and not from my fears, insecurities, and controls and approvals. And so that's a very simple process to do. And here's the magnificent secret. Would you like to hear it? The most magnificent secret I've ever learned in my life.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share it with you guys. We need an experiential feedback loop that allows us to discover when we are off center. Because nobody can be in center all the time, and nobody can be in flow all the time. So what we need is the ability through experience to be able to continuously catch ourselves when we're off center. How quickly can we catch it, and how quickly can we return? How often can we catch it, and how often can we return? And then when we return, how long can we stay there? So that's the training. It's very practical. And that's what it comes down to. And how you do that is by learning to play the pauses. Okay.
How do you expand on that?
All right. We learn to play the pauses. All right. So let's say you and I, we know some great musicians, right? What makes these musicians so great? Like we can have two musicians, and these two musicians, they play the same song. One person is, you feel the soul, you feel it coming right out. And the other person, is great. What's the difference? The masters play the pauses. The masters play the space between the notes. The masters play the space between the strokes. The masters play the still point between stimulus and response. So that's what it comes down to. So practical method to do this is in any interaction. And you could try this right now. And it's a simple practical thing that you could do right now that'll transform your life. The next 2 steps I'm going to say. Number 1, in any interaction, 5 steps. Number 1, pause, step back, take a breath, a tactical breath. And I'll teach you what that is in a second. Look around and choose a response. That'll ensure that you're not just reacting through an emotional pattern or through some programming. So in any interaction, right now you ask me a question, I pause. I'm talking to my kid, I pause. I'm practicing pausing so I don't just blurt out a reaction. How many times is it that we talk about, let's say hindsight is 2020. Somebody says something, you made a decision, and you're like, oh my goodness, I wish I didn't make that decision. You wish you could travel back in time and choose something else. You don't want the decision you made back. You want the moment back before you made the decision, so you could consider all your options that you didn't see that were right there. Because those decisions, you were like, oh man, I should have done this. I should have seen that. I should have said that. It's not like it was like magical that you couldn't figure it out, that it wasn't in your realm. You just didn't see it. It was right there because you reacted. So that's the path to mastery, is through the still point and playing the pauses. Now, so you pause, take a physical step back. What does that do? That creates space. The pause stops time, says time out. Pause, take in a breath. Now look around. That just expands your awareness. It makes you, instead of tunnel vision, makes you aware. And now choose a response. And there's a great mantra the maestro taught me. His name's Dr. Diego San Miguel, one of my Kung Fu brothers. And he said, it's not necessary to react, because it's not necessary to react. So if you say pause, say time out, pause, step back, take in a breath, look around, and say, it's not necessary to react. That gives you time and space between the stimulus and the response to choose a response. That will transform the decisions you do, the actions you take, your experience of life, because that brings you out of your head, into your body, into the ground, to your center. Now you choose from there. And if you want, I'll give you another secret on top of it. Before you choose that response, ask yourself, is this response coming from my need for control, from my need for approval, or from my need for security? And if it is, consider a different response. Because if you choose from those, you're just going to keep repeating the same loop you've been doing.
Oh, that is so beautiful. You bring up the very famous quote from Austrian Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. One would think that seeing your mother and brother murdered, or your father being starved to death, or seeing your friends and family members tortured, you would be angry and want to wring out everybody. But he still found hope and meaning in what he did. And what he did say was very beautifully what you put down, that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in that response lies our growth and freedom. And you beautifully pointed it out just right there, that we can create, just with that pause, that distance between stimulus and response. And when you do that, you weaken the automatic response that automatically goes through what you were conditioned to do for approval, for security, for safety and whatnot. So beautifully put. The pause. How do you practically catch yourself or insert that into your life? Do you almost, I know for me, sometimes I like to set reminders as I walk through every single doorway that, okay, can you wake up for a second? Can you at least pause? And for us, if we could insert more of those pauses in it every day, right when you have that interaction, you're like, am I interacting from taking my day's work into this relationship conversation I'm going to have with my loved one? How do you like to practically make sure that you include more pauses in your day?
It's a wonderful question. So I believe that your practice, your strategy for dealing with obstacles, and your way of the life should be the same thing. Because the common thread of mastery across the board of all, whether it's martial, medical, mystical, musical, traditions, whatever it is, comes down to the ability to pause and operate from your center. Because there's no victory, no defeat, nothing in this world can be disassociated from that relationship with that center. Yeah. So what I do is we make and embed it into your day structurally. So once upon a time, I used to be an engineer. So for me, this is just all flow engineering and spiritual engineering, and getting it down in a way that can be measured, right? If it cannot be charted and it cannot be measured, I cannot see growth, right? And so the first thing, morning routine. The morning routine is the pause between the night when you went to sleep and then now you're going to face your day. That's your first pause. So what is everybody knows nowadays, especially I'm sure your clients and everybody here listening at this summit, Thrive State Summit, that got to have a morning routine, right? Okay, that's cool. That's piece one. We're all there. So whatever you do, cold showers, break a sweat, hydrate, do your prayers, gratitude, many different ways that you can do. Okay, cool. That's one piece. The second piece is set 5 alarms. And I challenge you, do this for 5 days, right? And then if it doesn't work, you can call my bullshit. All right. All right. So I challenge you. All right. So here we go. Set 5 alarms for either 3 minutes or 5 minutes. So that's 25 minutes throughout the day, or 15 minutes, whatever you got. No more than that. 5 alarms throughout the day. And in those alarms, those are tactical pauses that you insert into your day, that when that alarm goes up, boom, it's time to remove myself from this world, step back, take a break, pause, and recenter back through aligning my body, my breath, and my mind back to center. And you do that throughout the day. So what are you doing? You're creating a muscle memory. You're training yourself that it's important to pause by structuring and building it into your day. The next thing, practice the pauses in all of your interactions. And at the end of the day, play a game. This is a mind boxing game. This is how you play the game. So let's say you and I were in a conversation, Dr. V, and you said something to me and I paused before I said it. I'm like, ding, got one. Okay, ding, got one. And then you just put a number. And at the end of the day, you're going to have a number. So you're tracking that in your interactions. In the evening, have an evening routine that pauses between the transition between the end of the day and the night. So it's like the morning routine's like the sunrise. The beautiful thing about the sunrise is what? The transition between darkness and light. What's the beautiful part about the sunset? The transition between light and the darkness. So you are doing a morning routine for the transition for you. Throughout the day, you keep recentering through those 5 recalibrations. And in the evening, you have an evening practice. And in that evening practice is very simple. It takes 1 minute to do. Ask yourself 3 magical questions. And these 3 magical questions are, what did you do? What did you learn? And what are you going to do about it? Now you have functionally instituted a pause, transition point in the morning, in the evening, 5 times throughout the day, and you're looking to work it in all of your interactions. Now you're learning to embed stillness, or the still point between stimulus and response, the transition point, as a practice, as a strategy, and as a way of life. And that's how you start to recondition and download a higher operating system. And what do I mean by higher operating system? For the people that I work with, there's tactics, there's strategies for yourself, an ER room, things of that nature. Okay, those are the things you have to do. But those things you have to do, normally, for most people, the things they have to do, the what they do, is the primary operating system running in the front.
Yeah.
And their state of being is running in the background. But what masters do is their state is running in the front. And their tactics, strategies, actions are running in the back. So what they're doing is they're constantly shifting their perceptive experience to what is actually happening. And from there, choosing, okay, what the tactics, what the strategy are. And this makes the difference when we talk about high-level law enforcement or military, special forces, athletes, or anybody in high-tense situations. This is what makes the difference between the choices that they make, because their primary operating system is running what is their current state. And then the choices are after. But this also makes a successful interaction between father and son, between husband and wife, between friends. You know what I mean? You don't have to be an operator. You don't have to do these things as high performers. Hey, the greatest high performers on this planet are moms. Does anybody see what a mom does every day? Oh my goodness. What a mom does? It takes care of the kids, the different things a mom. Every mom is a high performer. People should be interviewing moms and find out how they deal with kids and life and husbands and all the crazy stuff that they do. Man, that would be a bestseller, because that's the secrets there.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, I just wanted to let you know, join our community. There's so many free resources and a great community of people that desire health, happiness, human potential, to have more in their life, more health, more energy. And when you have those 2 things together, you could create more happiness, more abundance, whether it be financial, romantic, all these things in your life. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where to go, just sign up for thrivestatestarter.com, because in there you're going to get a bundle of information that includes a longevity ebook, a longevity and performance resource guide, lecture notes that come from my keynotes at Google, at Fortune 500 companies, all the insights in that keynote in lecture slide form given to you. And then finally, breathwork. I share 3 powerful breathwork exercises to access calm, which really gives you clarity and peace during the day, to access energy if you need to wake up and really motivate yourself, and finally a breathwork routine that you could do every single morning so that you could be very intentional with how you create that day. You can find all this stuff delivered free to your inbox at thrivestatestarter.com. And our community is growing. If you want to be a part of a community of people that desire the Thrive State, that are really in Thrive State themselves and help other people along with that. You could be a part of the community. You can get group coaching from me. We do breathwork sessions, meditation sessions, and you also get to drop in and participate in podcasts in the future. You could find more about the community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. So check out those resources. You're not going to be disappointed. And please enjoy the remainder of this podcast.
Oh, yeah. We interviewed Wellness Mama, Katie Wells, as a part of the summit to give them those tools and tactics. Let me ask you this question here. How do you know when you are at your center?
That's a great question. When I'm in my center, I'm 100% aware of my body, mind, and breath. I'm aware of 360 degrees of space around me. I can feel my heartbeat. I can feel the pulse in the room. When you're in your center, your perceptions open up, and there's three kinds. There's your intuitive, kinesthetic, and empathetic perception. So kinesthetic, your body feel. Empathetic, your ability to feel people, places, things, what's happening. And intuitive, you just know. When you're in your center, it's a knowing without knowing. There's a peace. There's a presence. There's a playfulness. There's an effortlessness. There's a being here nowness. You're a nowist. You're right here, right now. And you're still, but you're ready. You're relaxed, but you're rooted. And that's the thing, that anything and everything is possible. And one of the things is that gets us there, there's a HOD, I like to call it. It's humility, openness, and detachment. So humility relaxes the ego. Openness means you're open. When the ego is there, we're fixed. We have an idea, we have an agenda. So when humility relaxes the ego, you allow yourself to not know. You'll be okay with what may come. But now you're open. And then when you're open, you can come at this as an explorer. So now in this moment, I'm exploring this moment because this moment is unlike any moment I've ever experienced before, or unlike any moment I'll ever experience again. So now I'm an explorer. And when I'm an explorer, what do? I get to discover something. When I discover something, what do? I learn something. When I learn something, what do? I grow. And when I grow, I create. And that's what they say, that in the Tao, it says stillness is the master of unrest. It's the master of unrest. So the spiritual state of stillness is the master of unrest. You're still, you could say that you're happy, you're fulfilled, you're complete. Ultimately, though, when you're in your center, you're connected up to something higher than yourself. And you realize that it's not about you, and it never was. It never was. That's the thing. Those masks make it about ourselves. There's many people I know that are amazing at what they do. They've accomplished so many things, but they come to me and they're like, man, something is still missing. I'm longing for something. We're all longing. The third crisis, a meaning crisis. We're all longing for some meaning, some purpose in our lives. True purpose, though. And that's a knowing. It's not a mental figuring out thing. It's a knowing thing. It's a connecting up thing to your higher power, whatever it may be. There's in one of the scriptures, of course, it says, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am the divine. Be still and know that I am the Tao. Whatever you believe in, but when you connect and you understand that higher power of yours is not somewhere outside of yourself, that it was always within. Now you feel safe. Now you feel fearless. Now there's no more doubt. Now you trust. And now what happens? You create a space for people to come into where they can be vulnerable, where they feel safe. Because most people, Dr. V, are suffering from fear and doubt. They doubt themselves and they're afraid. Why? Because they don't feel safe. And they don't trust themselves. So what do they need? They need to be around people who trust themselves. They don't need to trust other people. They need to be around people who trust themselves, because what they really want is the ability to trust themselves. And that's the center and the beauty of the center, because it handles itself all by itself. Because there's a greater intelligence inside of us We just need to let that intelligence, the central intelligence agency inside of us,
Yeah.
we just need it to be in charge. And it's really beautiful what comes from
Oh, goosebumps as you said that, because it resonates so much truth in me. But we look at the complexity of the human body, from our heart cells beating at a certain beat when we're running real fast, to speed up or to slow down, be able to stimulate these sweat glands that come out to cool us down when it's hot. There's already an innate intelligence without us having to think. All these things are already gifted within us. But also within us is this very primal, primitive part of our brain and nervous system that also beautifully makes us human. That says, hey, this is a human thing, but there's also this divine thing within you that you get to rediscover and remember as you go through life. So what a beautiful thing. Your work is so powerful. Based on what I think you've already shared with us, you've demonstrated how overwhelmed, stress, burnout, feelings of anger, frustration, all these things that hold tension really has a methodology that people can master stillness within the chaos. I know you've gifted us with this 18-minute video that you're going to get on a different day of the summit. So make sure you check this out, because it's one of the activations on the different day. Can you describe what that practice is that you shared with us?
Yes, absolutely. So I shared with you a very profound but simple practice that is very powerful. It's a Tai Chi practice. Tai Chi and Qigong have changed my life. And I truly believe they are vehicles to develop human potential, discover the cause of our own ignorance, and again, get to that center so we can create, connect, and adapt. And in this 18 minutes that you're going to get when you sign up for this, and you can do this every day, and that's what you could do. I've put two practices together in there for you. They're about 6 minutes long each. I was talking for a couple of minutes. And they're going to teach you how to relax down with gravity, release tension, so you get an experience with it. Because if you don't feel it, it's not real. If you don't test it, you can't trust it. And so you can follow along, and it will sequentially, step by step, teach you how to identify tension, relax down with the force of gravity. And then once you find that center of your body, breath, and mind, and the center of heaven, man, and earth, because heaven is just space above you, your higher self, and below you is gravity pulling you down, how you can be suspended between the two. And once you find that center, then the next practice continues on that teaches you how to move from that center and the way energy moves. Energy has 8 ways that it moves in Tai Chi practice, also in Qigong practices, and you can gather energy. Energy can rise. It can expand. It can contract. It can flow in. It can flow out. It can fall, and it can disperse. Just like in life, you can gather things. Sometimes you rise up. Sometimes things expand. Sometimes things contract. Sometimes forces flow in. Sometimes you flow out. Sometimes things fall. And then they disperse. That's the whole cycle of life. But through that practice, it's follow along. You can put it on. You can listen to it every day. You can use it for the 5x5 challenge that I mentioned earlier, and really give it a try. And I hope that it benefits you as much as it's benefited me. It's also a practice that I share with everyone, from house moms dealing with screaming kids to high-level operators. It's the same practice, because it teaches you to build a relationship with your center practically in a way that you could feel it and allow you to shift your state.
Oh, that's beautiful. I know it's just a taste, these two practices, of what you teach in your studio, as well as your Master Your Center course. So can you tell the people how to find out more about you, the classes that you teach, how to go deeper with you if they want to learn how to master their center?
Yes, you can visit my website. It's called masteryourcenter.com or sifusing.com, SINGH. There you'll see my martial arts stuff, my Qigong Tai Chi stuff. And you can find me on Instagram at SIFUSINGH. And if you're interested and you're seeking to get to your center, so you can, as Sifu always said, he said, we're here to work on ourselves so that we could be of service to the world. That's the thing. Free yourself from yourself get to that center so that you could serve, because we all have a mission, but we need to show up ready to perform that mission. As I always say, the divine only uses the ready. So get ready, get yourself ready, get yourself prepared to be used in service of others. That's what I really love about what you're doing with this summit. And when you asked me to be a part of it, I was like, right away, because you're serving, you're giving back. And that's the type of thing that we need in this world today. And not just from helping other people, but it's through giving that you truly receive. And like I said, I'm really moved by your mission here to help, especially with mental health and things of that nature that are out there these days. You guys come support us here, and you'll get access to that course. And so you can continue to get to your center and go be the change you want to see in the world.
Tell us a little bit about that course, because the course title is very interesting. Mind boxing. Tell us a little bit more about it.
So mind boxing, it's one of the first courses I created. I actually created it for Jack Canfield, a good friend of mine and a mentor of mine. He wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he asked me, could you create a course for my people? And I said, okay. So mind boxing, what it is, the war is within. It always has been within. So we are fighting this war inside. The enemy is inside. And how do you learn about this enemy? How do you fight it? How do you get to that center that we're talking about? What are the steps that you take? It's a step-by-step follow-along course that you just plug in and show up and follow along. And it's designed to use Tai Chi and Qigong practices to help center you, to help build your mental fitness, physical wellness, and get to that spiritual state of stillness. So it's just because at the end of the day, look, the war is within. The voices in your head, they're the ones that show up. They're the ones that stop you from showing up. They're the ones that keep you where you are in the cycles that you're in. They're the ones that create a reality that's not real. Yeah. So you have to learn to break through those voices. You got to assassinate. You got to be a cerebral assassin. You got to assassinate those voices. I'm going a little young on you because all of my military people are trained and everything, but you got to bring that mindset to it, because sometimes we think, oh, we're going to go meditate and close our eyes and it's going to be kumbaya. That's not it. When you go to meditate, you have to be ready for the voices to come, the thoughts to come. They're going to come racing. And it can't just be an assumption that close your eyes and you're going to find peace. You have to be ready for the thoughts to come. And really what it is that when the thoughts come, you don't react to them. You just catch them. Instead of them not showing up, that doesn't work that way. They're going to come. You're like, oh, I'm thinking. The next moment, you're back to the present moment. You continue the practice. And, oh, I was thinking about the bills. Oh, gotcha. So the thinking is the punch. You're like, boom, I gotcha. That's the parry. That's the defense. And every time you catch, you're teaching yourself to catch yourself thinking and recenter back. Catch yourself thinking and recenter back. So the more we can build our awareness, like I said, the magnificent secret is to build the awareness when we're off center, when we're in our minds, when we're thinking, when we're obsessing, when we're worrying, when we're complaining, when we're criticizing, when we're condemning, when we're doing all those things. So if we can catch it and make a change, that's the true skill that we need. So we can come back, return to center, and return to flow.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of an African proverb, and I might be butchering it, but it says something like, if there's no war within, then no enemy outside could ever hurt you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's when you look at, if I can be at peace with myself, there's no part of me to lose anymore.
Yeah.
Because my attachments to victory and defeat are gone. My fears are gone. So if you win the war within, there is no opponent for my enemy to fight. That's what Bruce Lee was talking about in Enter the Dragon, shatter the image, and there is no longer an opponent. What he was saying is that shatter the image of yourself that cares about winning, that cares about losing, that's attached to victory and defeat, that wants to impress, that wants to do all these things. Shatter that image. And once that image is shattered, now you can join and connect with your opponent, with your enemy. You can see what they're seeing. You can become one with them. And then their actions will determine their own results.
Brother, I thank you for the work that you've done in your own life to be able to take out the treasures and shared it with us today. Your frequency, who you are as a person. I am so grateful to have met you, brother. Thank you for sharing your wisdom today on the Thrive State Summit.
No, thank you very much. I'm just as pleased and humbled and honored to be here and to have met you as well. And we have lost a mutual friend last year. And so I'm really glad you stepped up to do this in honor of Eric the trainer. And I just want to give my blessings out there because he was a wonderful human and an amazing inspiration. And finally, last but not least, a shout out to all my teachers, because without my teachers, I wouldn't be here today. I continue to train and learn from them, and for them sticking with me and helping me become or show me the way. I'm truly blessed with have my teachers, my family, and my friends around me. You know what? It's a great life.
It is. Thank you for helping us wake up a little bit to the beauty of life. Thanks again.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Thrive State podcast. And if you're finding that this content is really helping you and your family members, please consider supporting our mission and our cause of elevating health, happiness, and human potential for people all over the world. You can do so by making sure that you subscribe to this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family members, and leaving us a 5-star review wherever podcasts are heard. All these things are going to really help elevate the show and to give us the resources to continue to bring more content just like this to yourself as well as the people that you love. If you haven't already, you might want to consider joining our community. We actually have a community where people get to engage with me in group sessions where we do breathwork, meditation, where we do challenges together, really to be able to get us access to health, happiness, human potential, so that we could have longevity and performance in our life as well. You can check out our community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of my book, Thrive State. It really gives you all the tools, the pillars that you need to create a blueprint to control the energetics of your life. Who are you? How you show up in the world? The choices that you consistently make create an energy in your body, and you can control this. And when you can control that, you also control the messages you give to your DNA that gives you access, again, to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. And let me also just share a free gift to you. If you haven't already, please pick up my longevity and performance bundle where I share lecture notes, ebooks, breathwork exercises, and longevity and performance resources at thrivestatestarter.com. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for helping us grow. Remember always, my friends, that you are your best medicine.